What am I supposed to talk about? If you don't want me, what am I supposed to talk?
Hello everyone, I hope you are well and safe. I would really appreciate it though if before you listen to this podcast, you'd be able to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Let's try to get to 100 subscribers in the next few days. Today, being that we are currently living in tough times due to the coronavirus, which can potentially have a detrimental impact on people's state of mind, and it is Mental Health Awareness Week, I only felt that it was right to discuss the topic of mental health within football and in general life. I am joined by fellow Villa fan Dom Phillips, and we aim to share our own experiences regarding mental health and highlight its impacts, which can in extreme circumstances affect many lives. Firstly, Dom, how are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. Yourself? You good? You getting all right?
I'm really good, thank you, yeah.
I just wanted to say before the podcast that before we get in, obviously, we're going to discuss a lot of deep and sensitive topics today, and we might discuss them in detail depending on how the podcast goes. So this is a trigger warning for anyone who might be affected by anything that we say. Just be careful. We would love you to join in the debate. We want it to be a healthy promotion of debate and discussion. We don't want this to have any negative impact on anyone, but we're also not naive to the fact that that isn't impossible. So please tread carefully, and if you don't want to go down this kind of gravity train, if it's going to affect you, then please don't put yourself through it.
Of course, and we will leave a link in the description to many charities that you can contact if you're ever experiencing mental health problems.
Reach out to someone.
No, of course. So, firstly, Dom, according to mental health charity Mind, approximately 1 in 4 people in the UK will experience a mental health problem each year. In England, 1 in 6 people report experiencing a common mental health problem such as anxiety and depression in any given week. Firstly, did you know about this statistic, and instinctively, how does it make you feel?
I didn't know about those statistics specifically, but they don't surprise me in the sense that because of this world of social media that we live in, people selling horrible messages behind keyboards, people holding themselves to unrealistic standards online, people just behaving differently, behaving fake and building a fake persona, which is messing with their head, and people not living. I'm not saying people not living real life, but like I think some people, myself included, get too immersed in this social media bubble, and that's not healthy for your mental state at all, or your physical state really. So it makes me feel really sad, because while these kind of mental health problems are normal, it is this advanced society that we're in that is arguably contributing to many of them. Even though some are obviously organic, you can't really help them. Some mental health problems are completely just come out of nowhere, but others are caused by different factors, and those factors, they really make me sad, as does the presence of the problems themselves.
Do you believe this statistic needs to be publicised maybe more in order for more people to understand the gravity of the situation, or do you think that charities and organisations are doing all they can in order to spread this message?
I don't know if they're doing as much as they could, but I think it comes down to everyone in society, to be honest. The responsibility to fix mental health is that it's a public thing. It isn't as easy as rolling out a vaccine. That's not how it works. The way it happens is everyone has to put in an effort, from social media companies to police comments a bit more wisely. I wouldn't say more, because there are some false positives, but I mean wisely so. Make sure we're getting the right comments that are just wrong and out of the way. Things like that. Stopping fake pictures being put up, like of models who might, make young people hold themselves to unrealistic standards. But then it comes down to educating people about the importance of what you say to people online behind a keyboard. Like keyboard warriors is obviously the online phrase of people who don't have a face. They just say horrible things behind a keyboard, wreck someone's life, but don't face any scrutiny from it because they're completely anonymous. So it's all about stopping those people being able to do that, and making sure that people are encouraged that there's more to life than social media.
No, I totally agree. So let's look at the figures. Approximately 1 in 4 people in the UK will experience a mental health problem each year. At the time of recording, that is just over 60 million British citizens. Being that the number of those affected is so high, I'm sure that a close family member, a friend, or even yourself have experienced a mental health problem. What are your first memories of experiencing mental health problems in your life?
I mean, I've always had a level of anxiety, and there's like multiple aspects to that. So like one could be social anxiety, where it's I'm not good with speaking to people I don't like. I'm not exactly very outgoing. I really do not do social situations, and I don't like sort of the whole. I don't cope well with like a group that's like more than a few people, and it takes me a long time with people to sort of come out of a shell. Like
Okay.
with my friends that I have now, it took me so long to come out of a shell where I was comfortable to like be myself around them, because I'm sort of anxious. Like, will they like me if I talk too much? If I be like myself, will they? Oh, they don't want to be friends with me anymore. Will that make me lonely? All those kinds of things. But there's also the anxiety of ambition is a good phrase for it. Like, I want to get somewhere, and I've always wanted to get somewhere, and I've always wanted to work hard to get somewhere and prove that person or prove any persons that are doubting me wrong, and prove the people that have wronged me. I want them to look like an idiot as well. But I'm always anxious that I'm not going to complete that. I always have that self-doubt of, you're not doing enough, you need to do more. And, to an extent that is plausible, because I do need to do more. But sometimes I'm sort of like, I'm just cautious and afraid of where the world might take me, because it's a quite crazy, chaotic world where
Yeah.
people are changing careers and doing different things, and anything can happen at any one time. And sort of the chaotic nature of life is very, look at this COVID-19 crisis. I had so many plans for the year. The year was going to be amazing, and for I think a load of people planning a good year, and
Yeah.
it's all changed, and you can't help that. So the anxiety of something that comes, that might happen out of nowhere is another thing. But then there's depression comes into it as well, like losing people, like my mom when I was 8 to cancer.
I'm sorry to hear that.
No, it's all right. And even something as stupid as a breakup, even if it's like, everyone gets affected differently by a breakup, especially if you've been that person for a long time, or how serious the relationship was, or if it's your first breakup, things like that. Or even just out of nowhere, like not doing well in something, a little microcosm of a depressive spell, like a little brief thing. Everyone, I think it's entirely normal. I've not been through anything too serious. Well, I've been very serious, to be honest, but I don't think I'm too out of the ordinary, in sense of a lot of people go through these kinds of things in the way that this world's constructed. So I wouldn't say I'm like unique in any way.
What were your predominant emotions when experiencing the impacts of a negative state of mind? And what do you tell yourself in order to confront and fight these mental battles, if you like?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that you feel is it isn't even mental. The first thing that I notice for me is, obviously I can only speak on my experiences on this podcast, but like a feeling of emptiness. Like your stomach just feels empty, your heart just feels empty, and you feel numb, you feel disconnected from reality, and it's really not a nice not a nice feeling at all. And then it comes to the emotional side of things, just your feelings of loneliness. I mean, especially in lockdown, to be honest, because not being able to see any friends or extended family, it's really got to me, and it's just, I feel so lonely at times, and and it's the way that you get out of it. I've found it, because I've started to turn the corner now. It's do the things that you feel like you should do, and you feel like you can do, and you feel like you want to do. Like exercise and home workouts have helped me. Healthy body, healthy mind, feeling better about myself. I never ran before outside of. I never ran before. I'm one of those people that started jogging the second we got locked down. I'm one of those, but it's really helped me, to be honest. So I can't.
Yeah.
I'm really happy with it. And then just like reading, books that have sort of tried to change my mindset. Even sometimes just having a hot meal down you when you feel empty, just filling yourself up with just warm food, having a nice meal with your family is really nice, really, really helpful. Or just speaking to someone like through social media, or like having a video call with my grandparents, or a video call with my friends, or having like what I've been able to do since this week is I've had a socially distanced like meet up, because you're allowed to meet with one person outside of the house as long as you're social. So doing that, finding ways to keep yourself connected to the world but not over dependent on social media, and just spending lockdown working on yourself as much as you can. That's really how you have to turn the corner. And I've been through the worst times of my life in many ways mentally while I've been in lockdown, but I've also feel like I've started to turn the corner to become a new and a better person. So you got to go through the fire and flames sometimes, I think, and I just have a lot of respect for people who go through it. All the respect in the world.
A negative mental health isn't as easy to identify and treat in comparison to a physical injury, as it's not visual, and everyone experiences different versions of what is a continual problem within society, meaning that there is a different cure for everyone. Was it hard for you to identify this problem in the first place?
I mean, for me, no, identifying my own negative mental health wasn't a problem. I don't know, for a lot of people it is. Coming to terms that it's something that I'm very lucky to have had to skip. A lot of people have to, it takes a lot for them to do that.
Yeah.
But with me, like, because I've helped people with their mental health before. I've spoken to a lot of people, and I've tried to help them, and I've been successful in them. I know how to identify it. I know how to identify the problems. So when it started hitting me, I knew exactly what I was going through, and I'm very lucky to have gone through that, to be honest. But the sad thing is that a lot of people don't. That's why you need to talk to people about it, or check what your doctor says, or check the NHS website for the symptoms or whatever, and just speak to people and see how they gauge your state of mind, but also have some introspection and look into yourself. Even if you don't like the way that you are, you have to look and find the real problems and the real positives, and just look into yourself and feel better about yourself.
One main way that children can learn about the impacts of a negative health is via education at school. And do you believe that you are fully informed about the topic of mental health?
No, not really. It only really because I'm just about to hit 18, so that's only just starting to become more of a topic now. So I feel like if you ask, say, one of your younger siblings who's like, let's say 4 or 5, by the time they're my age, they'll probably been educated a lot more than I am.
Yeah.
But the education system has been too late on it. It's not been beneficial, in terms of it's not made itself trustworthy. It's not made itself look very appealing, or made itself look like a credible option for many people who are suffering through mental health, in my opinion, due to, from people I've spoken to. So I feel like mental health education is getting there, but it's going to take a lot of time. And, it's a real shame that it's just too late, really. But then again, I'd rather that it came too late than didn't come at all, I suppose.
In your opinion, what could schools do better in order to help those suffering, or further teach students about the impacts of a negative mental health?
Well, from an early age, you need to make it normal. So, like, if you're in a friend group now, you know that your friends will take the mickey out if you start being emotional sometimes, or you start being serious. They'll just want to banter. Teenagers, it's what they do. And the needs from an early age, they need to stop that. They need to normalize friend groups that encourage people to be able to talk to each other. Because one of my problems for years was I was in a friend group where it wasn't a toxic friend group, but it wasn't a friend group where I was able to talk about these kinds of things. It wasn't a friend group where I was comfortable talking about those kinds of things. So, last couple of years, I've sort of moved into a new friend group with newer people, and those people, I've been able to have the same kind of banter that I had before, or better banter, but I've also been able to trust them enough to open up to them. And, without them, I'd really be in a bad place at the moment, 2 people especially. So, it's just a real godsend having a good friend group. So schools need to raise kids, and parents need to raise kids, so that these kinds of friend groups become the norm. And also just making themselves appealing, because schools are not appealing. They look like bureaucratic bodies who want to get you in the room, use you on a quota for statistics, and then send you off to a doctor who's going to do horrible things to you. And, as much as that's massively out of proportion, blown up and not true, because I do encourage people to speak through official channels because it can help. That is the perception that they give off. I don't agree with that perception, but it's what exists, and they need to change that stereotype. They need to change that image, because it's really toxic, and it's making it not a credible option for many people, I feel.
Another way of educating citizens fully about the topic of mental health is via charities, with many volunteering to help those who are vulnerable and struggling with their mental health. To the listeners at home who may also be struggling with their mental health during this tough time, do you have any advice from your personal experiences regarding which charity's webpage or number to call for assistance?
Obviously the number is 116123, which is Samaritans. That's free to call. It's open 24/7. You'll just get put through to a human, and they will just sit there and they will talk to you, and they'll absorb what you have to say, but they'll also speak back to you. They're not going to make you feel uncomfortable. They're just there for you whenever you need them. And if you ever need someone to talk to, just call them. It's totally free, and it's available whenever. And it's amazing that a charity like Samaritans is able to put something up like that. So I'd recommend doing that. I'd always recommend trying to find a friend or a family member or a doctor or someone like that, because they know them. A doctor knows the most about the subject, but a person that knows the most about you and how you're most likely to come through that yourself. So a combination of a personal way of solving it or moving through it and a professional way of solving and moving through it is the best way. But if you really feel like you can't trust the people in life, then I really hope that you can build those bridges. But Samaritans is always there, 116123, free to call 24/7.
As simply as I may have explained, one of the main ways in order to help improve your mental health, many people in the UK may potentially be finding it difficult to talk about their problem as they may feel embarrassed or afraid to do so. You've emphasized this before in the podcast, but how important is it to talk about your feelings and emotions, as to not share your thoughts can potentially impact on your health even more?
It's not even a question. I feel I feel like I don't want to put an expectation on people, because that's not what I'm trying to do. But you really should talk to people. I've never known anyone who can just soldier a problem by themselves and just go through it, because it just gets too much to bear. You have to speak to people. You have to find people. I know it's hard to open up. I find it so hard to open up so many times. I mean, sometimes I've sat there deliberating, like, can I say this? Should I say this? Whether it's over phone, which is sometimes easier to say, or over text, which is easier to say, or in person. Sometimes I need to say this, but I don't want to say it. I really don't want to say it. And the only way you can do it is you've just got to batter that barrier, because it's a mental barrier. The barrier is in you. If you get rid of that barrier, that's another problem in your head gone. Just think of it as like a step-by-step way of just getting the problem gone. It's just getting that first barrier, getting it out there, and just speaking to people, because it's not easy. You can't always, you're not going to walk up to someone and instantly be able to tell them all the problems, because it's so difficult.
Yeah.
You are able to just sort of drip feed them what you feel comfortable saying, and build trust there. And you've got to talk to people about things. It's the only, I feel like you've got to do it to get through your things in a healthy way, in my view.
I totally agree. I think no one should ever have to cope with their mental health issues alone. And often this disease spirals and a person begins to feel that it is something they will never overcome, and perhaps it would be much better if they no longer existed, which people must be made aware that this is a brain chemistry issue, if you like, that is messing up with their thoughts, and they must seek help, in my opinion, before the brain leads them to making these horrible decisions. Of course, friends and families should be taught to recognize these signs and how to help those trying to climb out from under this metaphorical heavy rock that is a mental illness. And
agreed.
Moving on to the impacts of mental health within various professions, if you like, according to the independent figures compiled by Sporting Chance and the Professional Footballers Association, show that 1,666 current and former players have access to mental health support services since 2013. Do you think that clubs still have a long way to go in terms of implementing support, just like you would get in real life?
It's starting to get, it's like the schools now, it's starting to get there, but the main problem is the culture. If you go to a football ground now, it's like, imagine if a player came out as gay, they'd get abused. Because the stands and the fan base is not as a whole, but there's a real old, like really, really old culture there that is just toxic. And that culture would also span to a negative view on mental health, or just smiling, get through it. It's not how it works at all. No. There are so many people who aren't educated on it. And that's why the education needs to be pushed. And that's why, anyone who's saying anything, why can't a steward just take them out? If at the end of the day, if you're so opposed to people helping their mental health or whatever, why do you have to speak? Just don't say anything. Just let people do what they need to do. How many times in your life have you seen someone do a bad decision, or not a bad decision, but something that you don't really understand? You don't stop them every single time. You always just let it play out. Just see what they want to do. So my advice to people who maybe don't understand mental health in a great capacity, who might be listening to this and a bit curious or a bit dismissive, is it doesn't concern you as a person. Maybe not. But that doesn't mean that it can't affect other people. So what you need to do is just look past that and just let people do what is right for them and what feels right for them. Because life is all about being happy. And if certain other people have longer routes and harder routes to getting to that point, then they should be assisted along the way. Because and they shouldn't be hindered. And so clubs, players, fan bases, everyone just needs to do more in sports, because it's a real in a real sad place.
So beyond raising awareness of the services available, do you agree that teams must be willing to provide players, many who suffer from bouts of depression and anxiety, with concrete help, if you like?
Yes, there has to be big mental health packages in support of players, because I suspect a common thing that affects players is performance anxiety, which is, I've got to get up every day well, every Saturday, say, and perform to like millions of people. How
Yeah.
am I going to do that? So many people must go through that. Like, imagine the young kids coming through the academies, making their debuts, going from playing under 23s with like a couple hundred people there, or at their school with like 20 people there,
Immense
to
pressure.
next week playing in front of like 30,000 people off the bench. Absolutely crazy. You know, all that pressure, as you say, it's going to have a mental toll. And, you know, clubs, you know, still have a long way to go in implementing support, and they need to do more concrete help for their players. And I know that they're coming there with like sports psychologists. They're getting there, but it's more than just clubs now. I think the problem is the culture, the football sports culture that we have.
Former Aston Villa player Stan Collymore, during an interview with me late last year, explained what it felt like when struggling with mental health issues, a difficult period in his life. And he said, and I quote, "It was positive and negative. Negative that I was going through this at a club I love dearly. However, positive because by reaching out for help, it saved my life." Do you believe that we need more footballers such as Stan to share their experiences regarding mental health? And do you believe that players aren't willing to do so because, like you said, the abuse that they may get?
Yeah, it's the same with players who may be in the closet, or no, not public in their sexuality is the better way to say it, because they have an anxiety, an anxiety of what happens if I say anything. Will I get vilified and bullied? They probably would, and that's the sad part. That doesn't mean that they shouldn't. You know, it's like heroes like you know, I'll be blunt, the first like black footballers, the great black footballers in England. They went through so much racism because how dare, you know, white fans couldn't handle the fact that a black player was maybe better than a white player, or that a black player played for their team, or a black player did a tackle that if a white player did, there'd be abuse, but there wouldn't be that much abuse. You know what I mean? So it's the same kind of thing where it's a backwards culture, and it's obviously going to bring anxiety to come out. But, you know, seeing people like Stan Collymore, Paul Merson, David Seaman, Neil Razor Ruddock, you know, on like Harry's Heroes, which airs on ITV. That is amazing. You know, Paul Merson, he's had it in his times in his life where he's been on and off with his, you know, his gambling and his drinking and but now that he's come forward with, this is what's going on in my head, this is my mental health, and he's been clean for over a year now. He's so inspirational, as to people, you know, like Stan Collymore, as you say, you know, been through so much as well, and people like that just need to keep coming forward. And I love for the day when a current player comes out and speaks about it, like a top pro. If they came out and talked about it in more detail, then that would be absolutely massive in terms of starting to shift the culture.
I was watching, I'm going a bit off the topic now, but I was watching Celebrity SAS the other day, and there was a man on there, former footballer, part of the crazy gang at Wimbledon, John Fashanu, and he was talking about how he paid his brother to Justin Fashanu to not come out as gay. That led to Justin Fashanu committing suicide because his family did not accept the fact that he was homosexual. Football squads, simple mathematics show, are likely to contain at least 3 players struggling with their mental health issues. These players are pushed to their physical extremes week after week, which can have severe effects on their mental health, and potentially, just like Justin Fashanu had, pressure at home. Are clubs in this current climate providing enough support services for players who are struggling with their mental health?
Yeah, I mean, Justin Fashanu is one of the greatest tragedies of the English game, I think. You know, I don't know if it was a form. I don't know if he committed suicide after he finished playing, but, you know, all the things that he must have been going through, I dread to think. And, you know, it's the way that play, as you say, if you do more physical exertion, like a bit of running is good for your mental health. But if you push yourself too far, you're just going to burn out and leave yourself back at square one, so to speak. So, you know, clubs are doing some support services, and different clubs are doing different support services. But at the end of the day, the biggest thing is just encouraging people to talk, educating people, and changing this backwards culture. Because I'll always come back to it, the main problem with mental health is the culture, and that is even worse in sport than it is in general society.
Figures from the Office of National Statistics show there were 205 suicides in Birmingham between 2015 and 2017, a rate of 7.6 deaths per 100,000 people. To lose anyone to suicide is a horrible situation to be in, and this clearly shows once again that despite education regarding mental health being increased within schools, there is still a long way to go, as you had said, to eradicate suicide.
I don't want to say something like we'll never eradicate it, but I would, if I'm being honest, I'd say it's unrealistic because there's some people that may have extremely severe mental disorders where they're very chaotic and up and down. Their behaviour is very unpredictable, and they might do something in the spur of the moment. So I don't think we're ever going to completely, destroy the notion of suicide.
No.
But I think we could get it into a place where, not like back in 40 years ago, where it wasn't talked about, it was never discussed, but it should be something that is publicly discussed. If everyone was able to talk about how they felt and there was no qualms about it, then everyone would be able to support each other. So I think we have so much potential to reduce it, and I think it will reduce when I think this generation grows older and realises the dangers of social media.
I totally
and goes
agree,
through
yeah.
mental health, empathises, and educates the next generation not to be the same. I think in terms of mental health, this is probably going to be what that we know of, because obviously mental health wasn't discussed back then, but this is obviously the worst generation for it. But the next generation that we are the ones to raise, and we are the ones to speak otherwise, they have to be the ones who can change that culture. And I'm an optimist, naturally. So I think there will, but it's so far away. You just never know. You just got to never give up on a problem like this because it's so difficult, mental health, and suicide especially. But you never know. You just got to see how well we educate and make those difficult steps now to have that positive steps in the future.
This shocking statistic caused clubs to launch campaigns to combat the problem, including Aston Villa, whose foundation runs Think Football. The programme uses sport to offer anyone the opportunity to improve their well-being. From your personal experiences again, how important can playing sport be in order to improve your mental health?
I tell you what, there is nothing I want to do more right now than jog up to the AstroTurf with my mates and have a kick around. It's not just playing football, but you can do it with your family, with a family member. I think that you can play sports, but just football is a release. Paul Merson said, he said, I think I watched a video of it, and he said, Saturday I had an hour and a half where there were no problems. That was all I got. All the freedom I got was I had an hour and a half because he loved football that much. And obviously I don't love football to the same obsessive degree as a professional player does, but I love the sport, and getting out there, being active, being healthy, and spending time with your friends, because sports is obviously a team game. Play it with your friends. It'd just be amazing. And I think more people need to do sport, more people need to do exercise. But if you work on yourself, your mind will. If you work on yourself on the outside, your mind will also fall into place because you become happy with how you are, and you become happy with where you are as well.
If you are struggling with mental health issues, please contact the following organisations whose contact details I have left in the description down below. Thank you very much to Dom for accompanying me today, and I do encourage anyone who is currently struggling with their mental health to talk to anyone in your household or online that you trust, as talking about your emotions, as we previously stated, is the best medicine. If you could like this video and subscribe to the channel if you have not already, I'd really appreciate it. And please share it to your family members, your friends, so more people can gain this message, which is to just talk about your emotions. Thank you once again for listening, and hopefully I'll see you soon.